Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Jeremiah chapter 7. Um, God is going to ramp up his warning. One of the ways he's going to do that, and it's going to be very blunt. Like we're gonna read a verse where he says, "Don't even pray for these people," and that's harsh. Now, what we also have to look at is the reason why he's saying that. Why does he say that? Why would he say that? And in order to understand that, you have to understand how they have ignored his warning, ignored his pleas. So let's jump right in it. Excuse me. Uh, okay, so chapter 7, verse 1 says, "This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Stand in the gate of the house of the Lord, and there call out this word." Now, um, very interesting. I'm going to do a couple of pot shots here. Hold on. I'm going to throw in a couple of pot shots for those people who call themselves prophets. You ever notice that they never really speak stern words to the people? Anyway, I digress. Just a pot shot. He says, "Stand in the gate of the house of the people, and there call out this word. Hear the word of the Lord, all you people of Judah, who enter through these gates to worship the Lord." Now, this is going to be a rebuke against false prophets. False worship. Um, the Pharisees, a few centuries later, would become the epitome of what God is even saying here. And the idea is that because one of the problems is that in their mind they were worshiping God. And here's the thing: they thought they were worshiping God, but they were not listening to what God was saying. See, it's like when people will offer you something. Like sometimes people will offer me food. So here's a good example. I don't like spicy food at all. And yet people will offer me spicy foods. So no, 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 no. You're going to love this. And then you're not hearing me. I don't like spicy food. Period. The absurdity of what they're doing in terms of their worship that they're offering to God, that they're not listening to whether or not if God is receiving or rejecting their worship. And then, of course, on what basis is he receiving or rejecting their worship? Verse 3 says, "This is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says: Correct your ways and your deeds, and I will allow you to live in this place." Now, we're going to kind of see this here, where God is telling them, even though as of now, remember Hezekiah's son, Manasseh, his, his wickedness and in those of the people sealed the doom. God said, "This is it. There's no turning back." But notice what he's saying right here. Even now, he said, if you correct your ways, I'll forgive your sin. Verse 4, "Do not trust deceitful words, chanting, 'This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord.'" Now, people do that today, right? The house of God. I'm going to the house of God. Verse 5, "Instead, if you really change your ways and your actions, if you act justly towards one another, if you no longer oppress the foreigner," here's another pot shot, Look at our society. Look at a lot of our conservative Christians. They'll talk about gays. They'll talk about abortion. And with all of the immigration crisis that we're facing, notice the attitudes. The attitudes. Notice what God is saying right here. If you no longer oppress the foreigners. But I digress. He said, if you no longer oppress the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows, and no longer shed innocent blood in this place, or follow other gods, bringing harm on yourself. Now remember, they're doing this in the house of God. They're doing these things as acts of worship. Verse 7, I will allow you to live in this place, the land I gave to your ancestors long ago forever. But look, you keep trusting in deceitful words that cannot help. Now, remember, Jesus told this story about in Matthew chapter 5 and 6 that if you're offering your gift on the altar and then you see that you have aught against your brother, and in other words, if you think an act of worship is I'm offering a gift, well, but you have aught against your brother. If you have aught against your brother and offering a gift, God is not happy with that offering. He said, first go make it right with your brother. My point is, we're not really hearing, or in some cases, we're not even interested in how God feels about our acts of worship. We just go here, and we think God is accepting our worship. And here is the criteria that He's given: a pure heart, pure motives, good works. Verse 7, do not steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, or burn incense to Baal and follow other gods that you do not know. So that's 5 of the 10 commandments He just listed. Then do you come and stand before me in this house, call by my name, and say, we are delivered, so we can continue doing all these detestable acts? So the delusion, being in sin, thinking, okay, we are delivered. Verse 11, has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your view? Yes, I too have seen it. This is the Lord's declaration. Now, this statement should be very familiar to you. This house, which is called by my name, has become a den of robbers. Jesus almost quoted the same when he drove out the money changers in the temple. Has my father's house become a den of robbers? Verse 12, but return to my place, which is at Shiloh, where I made my name dwell at first. See what I did to it because of the evil of my people Israel. Now, by this time, they should have took what happened to the northern kingdom, Israel, which at this point is around 60, 70 years. It's been laying waste because of their evil. They should have looked at that and go, wow, if God would do that to them, He's going to do it to us, but they're not. Verse 13, now because you have done all these things, this is the Lord's declarations, and because I've spoken to you time and time again, but you wouldn't listen, and I've called to you, but you wouldn't answer. What I did to Shiloh, I would do to the house that is called by my name, the house which you trust, the place that I gave you and your ancestors. I will drive you from my presence, just as I drove out all of your brothers, all of the descendants of Ephraim. Again, this is some sad spiritual condition of Israel. Um, Sad. So they're not taking the warning. See, by the way, which is just their neighbors. Like, it's not like this is some across the ocean. It's really just north of them. And and then they're not looking at what God is saying about what He would do to the sinful people. And the fact that He said that this is my house, yeah, I have no problem destroying it. absolutely have no problems destroying it. Now, you will note he says, I've called out to you. One of the things that really kind of bothers me is you hear people say, the God of the Old Testament, that God of wrath, that angry God. But they never focus on, notice what he says right here. I have called you over and over and over and over and over again, and you wouldn't listen. You're not responding. Now, when judgment comes, look at verse 16. As for you, referring to Jeremiah, do not pray for these people. We're going to see that when we move on in Jeremiah, but it is always sad when calamity comes, when judgment comes to people. And it could be whatever it is. In other words, you could say they're getting what's just, they're getting what they deserve. But it's still sad to see. Sometimes, you look at it, it's sad to see. And notice what he's saying right here. Don't even pray for these people. When it comes, don't offer a prayer. When the judgment comes to them, don't offer a prayer. That after you do not pray for these people, don't offer a cry of prayer on their behalf, and do not beg me, for I will not listen to you. Don't you see how they behave in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The sons gather wood, the fathers light a fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes for the queen of heaven. In other words, a pagan god. And they pour out drink offerings to other gods, so they provoke me to anger. But are they really provoking me? This is the Lord's declaration. Isn't it they themselves being provoked to disgrace? In other words, y'all look like fools. Verse 20, therefore, this is what the Lord God says, look, my anger, my burning wrath is about to be poured out on this place, on man and beast, and on the tree of the fields, and on the produce of the land. My wrath will burn and will not be quenched. Verse 21, this is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel says, add your burnt offerings to your other sacrifices and eat the meat yourself. For when I brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt, I did not speak with them or command them concerning burnt offerings and sacrifices. Now, he wouldn't do that for at least 3 months, right? For 3 months. When you think about the building of the tabernacle, he says, however, I did give them this command, obey me, and then I will be your God and you will be my people. You must follow every way I command so that it may go well with you. So this is the command. Follow my commands. Verse 24, yet they did not listen or pay attention, but followed their own advice and according to their own stubborn, evil hearts. They went backwards and not forward. Since the day your ancestors came out of the land of Egypt until this day, I have sent all of my servants, the prophets, to you time and time again. However, they would not listen to me or pay attention, but became obstinate. They did more evil than their ancestors. Now, one of the most interesting things here, and I say this all the time, that the Israelites' unbelief is unbelievable. It is utterly amazing how the Israelites unbelief. Now, keep this in mind. Unlike any other nation, they did not have the presence of God. No other nation has that. No other nation. What is even more sad is that the other nations had more faith and more reverence to God than the Israelites did. Verse 27. When you speak all these things to them, they will not listen to you. When you call to them, they will not answer you. You must therefore declare to them, this is the nation that would not listen to the voice of the Lord their God. It will not accept discipline. Truth has perished. It has disappeared from their mouths. Cut off the hair of your scarecrow and throw it away. Uh, uh, Raise up a dirge on the barren height. Now, a dirge, of course, is a sad song. You sing a sad song. For the Lord has rejected and abandoned the generation under his wrath. Um, Again, this is sad, sad, sad news. He said, For the Judeans have done what is evil in my sight. This is the declaration. This is the Lord's declaration. They have set up their detestable things in the house that is called by my name and defiled it. They have built up the high places of Tophet in the valley of Hinnom in order to burn their daughters in the fire, a thing I did not command. I never entertained the thought. The high places, you remember, were, and this was something as we read in, First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles. When even the good kings, when they would institute reform, they never would take away the high places. These were high elevated places, high up. Usually, like if you go up a mountain, high up. The thought is the higher up you get, the closer to the heavens, the closer to the gods you would be. And so these high places were pagan altars and pagan worship happened. Now the word Tophet, and then he said in the valley of Hinnom. The word Hinnom is where we get the place hell. Now, at this time, the valley of Hinnom was um, a city. It was a place that fell into ruin with the fall of Jerusalem. It actually fell into
Okay,
city.
I found this on the web, for it was a place that fell into ruin with the fall of Jerusalem. Check it out. By the way, if you have another request, you don't need to say Siri before you ask it.
All right. I accidentally hit Zuri and it actually gave me a definition here. Okay. Anyway, so the Valley of Hinnom um, became, because of the waste, because of the destruction of Israel, the northern kingdoms, it became a waste, and eventually it was just a garbage heap. It went from being a kind of a city, a region, then ruins, and then a garbage heap. Then it became we would call it like a city dump, and a perpetual fire was there. So and also when Jesus would say hell, he was looking at the Hinnom. That's what he was referring to, Hinnom. Now Sheol is the grave, or you can say what we think of as hell, but actually it's Sheol. But Hinnom was an illustration. Jesus kind of pointed to the garbage dump, which is a perpetual fire. You would see they would throw derelicts in there, and then you would see, um, again, just a perpetual fire. That's what Jesus would point to give them a visual of what is the eternal place, Sheol, and then, of course, the ultimate eternal place, is a lake of fire. Verse 32. Therefore, take note. Um, Therefore, take note. Days are coming, the Lord's declaration, when this place will no longer be called Tophet, and the valley of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. Tophet will become a cemetery because there will be no other burial places. Now, this actually happened. You saw it in Jesus' day. The corpses of these people will become food for the birds of the sky and for the wild animals of the land, with no one to scare them away. I will remove the city of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem. The sound of joy and gladness and the voice of the groom and the bride from the land will become a desolate waste. A very, very, very harsh. But again, notice this harsh judgment is because they would not listen to the Lord when he told them to repent. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I will see you in the next study.